he articulate. Not only does he have a engaging personality, and again, not only does he have a compelling life story, but apparently he's lacking in one key characteristic to satisfy those on the left. Apparently, he isn't really a black man. Now, if you've never heard of Tim Scott, I encourage you to Google him, take a look at him. I think that you will find, in terms of appearance, Tim Scott is indeed a black man. But he happens to be a conservative, Christian, Republican black man. And I think if you were to ask Tim Scott, as a matter of fact, I know if you would ask Tim Scott, because of his own words, Tim would describe himself as a Christian, conservative, Republican, American, who happens to be black. And unfortunately, we have folks the like of Amos Brown, a host on, of all things, a religious radio station in Indianapolis, Indiana, who this week tweeted out something, and I quote, "Gee, courtesy of South Carolina GOP, the nation gets Tim Scott, an ultra-right-wing Tea Party devotee, U.S. Senator, who's black only in skin color." To which I merely ask the question, what really is a black man? What does it really mean to be black? Apparently, by this man's definition, to be really black, one must either not be Christian, must not be conservative, must not be Republican, must not be from South Carolina. But wait a minute. South Carolina does, in fact, have another black congressman. Jim Clyburn is black, but he's not conservative, and he's not Republican. And quite honestly, I don't know what his faith perspective is, whether he's Christian or atheist or agnostic or Muslim or any other religion. I honestly don't know. So it must either be because he's conservative or Republican. That must be the problem. You can't really be black if you're conservative and a Republican. It's shameful that this kind of discourse continues to this day. The reason we haven't moved beyond race, the reason we're not a post-racial America, is because, quite frankly, this president, for one, and so many in the minority leadership, not just in Congress, prefer it to be that way. Because to acknowledge that minorities have been able to succeed the old-fashioned way, by taking advantage of the opportunities before them, by pursuing their self-interests, by taking advantage of the opportunities that exist in this country, and to be willing to dream and do the hard work necessary to succeed. Doesn't quite fit in with the narrative of the left, unfortunately. Well, you're listening to the Palmetto Conservative Show here on the Conservative Broadcast Media Network. Stay tuned. We're back in just a second.
I always loved watching the kids play basketball. I still do, even though things have changed. It's funny, they can't find jobs to get their careers started, and I can't afford to retire. And now we're all living together again. I supported President Obama because he spoke so beautifully. He promised change, but things changed for the worse. Obama started spending like our credit cards have no limit. His healthcare law made health insurance even more expensive. We've had stimulus and bailouts. Obama added almost $16,000 in debt for every American. How will my kids pay that off when they can't even find jobs? Now Obama wants more spending and taxes. That won't fix things. I had so many hopes. Cutting taxes and debt and creating jobs. That's the change we need. Tell President Obama to cut the job-killing debt and support the New Majority Agenda at newmajorityagenda.org.
From Iraq and Afghanistan, our brave warriors are coming home, wounded. Some with wounds you can see, some with wounds you can't see. Wounded Warrior Project was created to support our men and women coming off the battlefield. Please help carry these warriors the rest of the way home. Get involved at woundedwarriorproject.org.
And welcome back into the Palmetto Conservative Show. I am your host, Jim Lee, here on the Conservative Broadcast Media Network. Thanks for being here this evening. Well, what is clearly a topic that is not going to go away anytime soon. Well, strike that. I believe the topic will, in fact, go away soon. People will soon forget about Newtown, Connecticut, and the awful tragedy that occurred there. And what will remain is an inane discussion about gun control. And we will never truly focus on the root causes of what really happened in Newtown. The fact of the matter is, the tragedy that occurred in Newtown, Connecticut, and it is nothing short of that, is not the result of an inanimate object or several inanimate objects rising up on their own and exacting their anger on an unsuspecting people. No, the fact of the matter is that Newtown is reflective of a number of problems. And the symptoms really need to be evaluated in the context of trying to come to a root cause. And there may not be, and I would argue there really isn't, a singular root cause to explain what happened in Newtown or what happened in Aurora, Colorado, or Columbine, or any of the other places where individuals have chosen to inflict mass casualties, most often with the use of a firearm. I would venture to say that each of the perpetrators in those incidents I just described were certainly mentally incapacitated when they made the decision to carry out their terrible acts. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what, if anything, caused that insanity? Because truly sane people are not going to, in a premeditated way, actively go out and murder innocent people. Now, there are such things as temporary insanity, for example, in crimes of passion, or, in the midst of some sort of horrific event where a person is merely reacting. But those types of situations are not unique to those where a firearm is involved. There are tons of those types of things that occur, from anything from a flying plate to an iron pan to a knife to firearms. No, we're talking about what would lead a person who at least appears in some degree to be in touch with reality to lose any sense of respect for human life, such to the point where they would willingly and viciously go out and take the lives of innocent people. Well, for argument, I would proffer the fact that we are now in our arguably third or fourth generation, depending on how you mark time, our third or fourth generation of people growing up in this country with legalized abortion on demand, where life has been cheapened to the point where primarily, yes, you can point to the minuscule number of abortions that have been done in quote-unquote the health of the mother. But far and away, of the 50-plus million abortions that have occurred since abortion on demand was legalized in 1973, those have been simply for the purpose of afterthought birth control. And those actions were nothing short of taking the life of an innocent child. What else do we have? Well, we have an increasingly violent entertainment culture that glorifies violence as well as cheapens any sort of emotional connection to the notion of life. And this has been going on and been getting worse for decades. What else do we have? I believe we also have a situation where there has been a tremendous increase in the use of pharmaceuticals to control behavior and to address matters that arguably were dealt with in terms of discipline and distraction. The incredible number of children and adults we have that are walking through life medicated. And I'm sure there are other factors that we can come up with, but the common denominator in all these things is, as a society, we no longer have a base expectation that individuals are principally responsible for their own behavior and should be held accountable. We constantly seek for excuses to somehow assuage our own fears, I guess. We shouldn't hold this person accountable for what they did because they had a horrible upbringing. They came from a single-parent family. I would refer you back to Representative Tim Scott, who came out of just such a situation. Thankfully, he had a very strong and caring and devoted mother who, in spite of all the work that she had to do to raise her children as a single parent,